If you were under psychological attack, do you think you'd know about it? Because here's the thing, my ancestors back in Russia, they didn't. And 10 million of their neighbors ended up being slaughtered because of it. So we would like to make sure history does not repeat itself. And also, we really want to take control of our own destiny, right? Right. So today's episode is a continuation of last week's, which was all about you can't kill consciousness. But specifically, I want to discuss what is psychological warfare. And why is that? For two main reasons. Number one, the more we understand ourselves, the more we can truly find happiness and meaning with our lives, right? But number two, which is the point I really want to make clear today, is that there are more sinister forces that know about psychological warfare and our nest egg consciousness that may not act in your best interest. And I want to make sure that you're going to be okay because I love you. So to recap what we talked about last week, we mentioned that nest egg consciousness is basically all about the ways that our being interacts with the world around us in a very multi-layered way, right? We aren't necessarily aware of every aspect of it automatically. We have sensory organs for sure that help us understand the ones that we can think about consciously, but there's other parts of us, for example, the beat of our heart or the way that our liver processes things, that happen whether we consciously tell these organs to do it or not, right? So the concept of nest egg consciousness kind of adds on to the resonance theory. So resonance theory is something we're going to go a little bit into today. And last week we talked about resonance theory specifically in the context of consciousness. But today I'm going to give you some more examples of it in a more physical way that you might be able to click with. So there are so many ways that we communicate with others that are hidden within these nest egg consciousness. So for example, let's take a look at trees. So trees communicate via pheromones, or at least a type of chemical that's very similar to pheromones, through the use of both their roots and their leaves. So they're a lot more intelligent than we give them credit for. They may not be able to, gossip about the tree next door, but they're definitely in communication. And we know this because vast tree networks will respond to a stimuli even if 90% of the other trees aren't even necessarily in the exact path of whatever deterring force came in. Another really interesting example of this is heartbeat synchronization with humans. But here's the thing. We don't always sync up with all other humans. Allow me to explain. So we tend to sync our heartbeats up with those who we love and who we jive with the most. But look, if we don't like someone, our heart rate will not sync up with them. And there's good reason for that. So whenever you feel like you walk into a room and you feel some sort of vibe or some type of way or some type of energy in the room, that's not just some new age feeling, that's not just your intuition. There are other things that are coming into play there that your thinking mind cannot necessarily sense, or your eyes, your nose, your mouth with taste. Not that you taste rooms, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. Also, a lot of women understand this the most. Our cycles tend to sync up with people that we are around a lot, right? So, and by cycles, I mean our menstrual cycles. So for example, all it takes is my best friend to come live with me for a week and I immediately have my entire cycle synced up with hers. It happens every single time, without a doubt. If you are on a swim team, for example, if you're on any sort of sporting team, if you're around a certain group of women more often than not, even if you don't live together, this phenomenon still occurs. But even if you're not a woman, you still encounter some of these sensory pieces of information and they do affect you. So studies have shown that we have at least a 10-foot radius around us at all times. So if we take away our senses, if we take away our sight, our sense of smell, we can't taste anything, and we put noise-canceling headphones over our ears, that doesn't mean that we are actually completely deprived of our senses, because we can still interact with our environment in other ways because we have other layers of consciousness occurring. So let's say that we take off one of those sensory deprivation tools, right? So maybe we take off the noise canceling headphones and we're just hearing music. We're going to feel a very particular way, and we're going to learn a lot about the environment that we're in, whether we know it or not, right? The same thing happens to us with different waves of light. So different colors are going to make us feel different ways. Different sounds, different smells, different intentions all affect us a lot more than we would like to believe. Another great example of this is the fact that we have mirror neurons in our brains. And mirror neurons are these things that we have, unless you're a psychopath, that reflect whatever it is that's happening around us. So if you are around me and you are super happy, even if I had a bad day, I'm gonna end up feeling a lot better. And on the other side, if you come into my space and you are sad, I am going to pick up on that and I'm going to feel that sadness automatically, whether you tell me or not. And most people operate this way, whether they realize it or not. This is not just an empath reaction. This is a very normal human behavior. So if we want to zoom out and think about the mirror neurons, we do this a lot in a lot of other contexts that aren't necessarily directly in front of us in the physical form, right? So let's say that we open up our phones and we are having conversation with someone on some sort of social media app, or maybe we are scrolling through our timeline. Maybe we are, reading through comments in some random section of the internet. All of this information, we believe we are just interpreting and digesting in one particular way, right? We think, okay, well, my conscious mind is absorbing this information, and it is, I'm having a conversation with someone, or I immediately react. Maybe I look at a delicious picture of a brownie and I think, yum, and now my mouth is watering a little bit, and I'm thinking about it. But there's more going on in that picture when it goes into our heads than we realize because of our nest egg consciousness. It's picking up on a lot more information than your thinking mind realizes. So when I talk about brownies, that is an adorable, delightful example. But let's say we start talking about things like propaganda, right? That's going to get a little bit more complicated. And here's why. We need to define the definition of psychological warfare. Now, this section is really important to me to get right, so I'm going to make sure that I read from my handy dandy journal here. So, the definition of psychological warfare is used to denote any action which is practiced mainly by psychological methods with the aim of evoking a planned psychological reaction in other people. This is also used to destroy the morale of enemies through tactics that aim to depress troops' psychological states. Here's the thing. Troops and soldiers don't always look the same that they used to. Okay, we are in the year 2021. We don't all have to be wearing a certain uniform to be affected by psychological warfare. And in fact, with the use of technology, we don't even have to be in the same room. We don't have to be in the same country. We don't have to be on the same continent for things to be happening. This type of propaganda drains public opinion of an opposing regime by stripping away power of the public. It's hard to defend against because no court can actually legally protect us. We must protect ourselves. So another fact I'd like you to be aware of is the fact that conspiracy theories and the entire concept of them was invented by our own government. That word didn't exist before a certain world war. And excuse me for the fact that I have to censor myself a little bit because I can't have the free speech that we are told that we supposedly have here in the United States. So, why is it important for me to let you know that conspiracy theories are not necessarily as they seem? Well, I want you to do some research. I have some homework for you as we go into the next part of this series. So I want you to follow some money trails. I want you to ask yourself, who owns all the media in this country? What political side are they on? I think most interestingly to note and question here is, why is it that about 90 to 99% of us are being pitted against each other right now. Why is that? And why is the whole world watching? And why is it that I cannot access a multitude of countries' media sources unless I channel in through a VPN? I thought we were the land of the free. Why is it that we're told to outsource our truth and not trust ourselves in our own judgment? Look, here's the thing. I went to college. You can see my degree right there. I graduated and got my degree in theoretical mathematics. I work in a lab. I'm a scientist. I understand how the scientific method goes. I also understand how business works. I also understand that I have been in situations where I have seen that these labs choose to prioritize business over the scientific method. But yet, let's outsource our truth. And I've been told that myself by people who do not believe some of the questions that I'm bringing up. They believe I am a conspiracy theorist. I guess my own personal experience didn't ever actually happen or matter. Since we're talking about science, and I am a mathematician, and I do understand how numbers work, and my pattern recognition is tip-top with that autism, explain to me how certain parts of our country have been continued to be shut down and continue to not even allow people to go into certain places unless they've been, they got the jab. Some places are even threatening that you can't shop to get food. You can't get food in some places. I really want you to be able to go home with these questions and research them for yourself. There is a reason I'm not giving you answers, because I want you to find your truth. You are the expert of your own life. And you understand and know a lot more than anyone wants you to understand. Because people in positions of power, they don't want you to think that you have control over a lot of things that you actually do. They don't want you to understand that your body is beautiful and intelligent. Instead, they want you to numb it. They want you to get rid of that personal responsibility. They want you to sit in that pain. So at first, I used to just ask these questions to other people who I saw were in pain. And then this year happened, and I saw that it was my whole country. And most alarmingly to me, I believe, is the lack of patriotism we are allowed to feel. Otherwise, we are considered problematic in some way, shape, or form. Why am I not allowed to be proud to be of the group of human beings that I was born into? I love all of my neighbors. I don't care who they voted for. I don't care what color skin they have. I don't care what religion they choose to believe in. I don't. But do you want to know what I don't love? That top 1 to 5 to 10% of this country that uses us like cattle, that uses psychological warfare tactics on us so that we turn against each other, so it becomes easier for them to say, see, this is why we need to corral you, even though they're the ones that instigated the fight. Your mind is powerful, it is multifaceted, and no wonder someone wants to take it away from you in some way, shape, or form. So please think about these questions, and I will continue to expand upon these ideas with the weeks to come, especially with some very lovely guest speakers. So I love you so much. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, lovelies. Until next time, XOXO.